It's a route Karissa Fretwell took frequently. As a delivery driver for the Jimmy John sandwich chain, the 21-year-old was traveling to the Cascade Steel Rolling Mills in McMinnville, Oregon, for multiple days a week delivering to the job site. Despite her troubled teen years, she had been rebounding and had multiple part-time jobs and was about to graduate from community college, with plans to go to university to become an English teacher for middle or high school students. Then in 2016, she gave birth to her first child. What she didn't know at the time was that these sandwich delivery trips would eventually turn over into a series of events that would seal her and her child's fate. The following is the anxiety-ridden story of Karissa and William Fretwell. McMinnville is the largest city in Yamhill County, with roughly 33,000 residents. It sits in the heart of the state's wine country. It is roughly 25 miles north of the capital city Salem and roughly 40 miles southwest of the state's largest city, Portland. McMinnville is described as a destination for those who like the laid-back style of a small town with a taste for fine wines. It boasts dining and bar experiences, cool coffee houses, and its downtown plays host to a number of events, including the UFO Festival and weekly farmers markets. It also has enough green locations to go hiking and cycling and have picnics. In other words, a nice location for a mother and child. Except for one pair who would go missing in the spring of 2019. It's February 18, 2016, when 21-year-old Karissa Allen Fretwell gives birth to her son, William Fretwell, also known as Billy. Karissa had a difficult pregnancy, as it came during a very stressful time in her life. She had come off her troubled teen years and was now deep into her studies at Chemaqueta Community College in Hayesville, Oregon, from which she was expected to graduate within the next year from the Associate of Arts Oregon Transfer Degree Program, abbreviated as AAOT. She was fully committed to Billy and was laser focused on supporting the boy with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a contagious smile. He was energetic, loved water, Paw Patrol, Elmo, and Jack Jack from The Incredibles. Karissa said on Facebook that Billy grounded her when she was struggling and credited him for making her a better person and mom. The two would spend most weekends together, going to the park or just kicking a soccer ball around on a patch of grass near her apartment. Born in August 1993 in Colorado to Nyla and William Fretwell, Karissa lived for a while in Northwood, North Dakota. Her life changed when, in 2007, at the age of 14, she lost her best friend and father, William. He was only 48 years old. She honored her father by getting a tattoo of his name and naming her son after him. She subsequently struggled with life. She started high school in 2006 in Dallas, Oregon, but transferred in 2010 to Morrison Campus High School, also in Dallas, Oregon, a school for students at risk of not graduating. These were disadvantaged students struggling with various issues, including mental, emotional, alcohol, drug, or medical problems. She would be expelled from school, but was offered a spot back a couple of months later and eventually graduated in 2012. Karissa had also graduated from a drug and alcohol program and survived her term of probation. She would eventually settle in the city of McMinnville. Despite her troubles, Karissa was described as selfless, putting the needs of others before her own. She liked going out late with friends to restaurants and concerts. She held a brief job at McDonald's in 2013 before committing to Jimmy John's in May 2014 as a delivery driver. She would work for the fast food company until February 2017, according to her Facebook page. One particular destination she often delivered to was the Cascade Steel Rolling Mills in McMinnville. The manufacturing facility converted recycled metal into finished steel products. The local Jimmy John's was just over a mile west of the Cascade facility. As luck would have it, she went to the Cascade location so often, she ended up landing a job there in April 2015. She now had 2 part-time jobs while studying full-time. Karissa was known as an extremely hardworking person. After community college, she set her sights on Western Oregon University to study education. She would enroll at the school in 2018. On her Facebook page, she said the following, quote, "My son is my world, 2/18/16. Graduated with my AAOT, class of 2017. Future WOU graduate, big dreamer. She would never end up living out that dream." On a cloudy Friday, May 17, 2019, a family member of Karissa's went to visit her at her Salem apartment on Rouge Street. The family member said they had not seen Karissa or her son since May 13, which was very uncharacteristic. The sociable Karissa always kept in touch. She was supposed to drop 3-year-old Billy off at the babysitter, but she was a no-show. They tried calling her, but her phone was off. When they approached her home, the family member took note that in the driveway were both Karissa's cars, a white Grand Am and a green Mercury Mountaineer. Approaching the front door, the family member noticed that the door was unlocked, the television was on, and her bank card and Oregon Trail card, items she needed to take with her, were still there. It was later discovered that her glasses were also at the residence, but neither Karissa nor Billy were at home. The family member checked in with her employer, who told her that she had not been at work since May 13, meaning she had missed 3 shifts at the Yamasa Corporation, a soy sauce maker. They checked the area hospitals and jails, but nothing. The family members told police that Karissa was always either in contact with her family, her babysitter, or her employer. The next day, detectives would confirm what the family members told officers. Her cars and items she would need to go out were still at home. Detectives then reached out to several of her friends, who told them they haven't heard from her since May 13. On May 17, Karissa and Billy would be declared missing persons. A key person detectives approached was Billy's babysitter. The babysitter said she took care of Billy at her home on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. At 4 p.m. on May 13, the babysitter met Karissa to return Billy. The babysitter raised with detectives conversations she had with Karissa about a man she used to work with at the Cascade facility. His name is Michael Wolfe. On a plot of land roughly 217,000 square feet large sits a 4-bedroom, 2-bath home in Gaston, Oregon that was purchased in 2005 for approximately $319,000. When detectives knocked on the door, they were greeted by a 6-foot, 2-inch tall man weighing 250 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. He was sporting a bushy mustache. Up to this point, Michael Wolfe only ever had relatively minor traffic violations, like failure to display license plate, careless driving, speeding, following too closely, unsignaled lane changes, and an expired registration sticker. The latest having been received way back in 2005, according to the Oregon court docket. Born on March 25, 1967, Michael John Wolfe was nothing special. A background check showed he drove a Lexus LS 430, had an affinity for hunting, and had previously held a job as a quality engineer at Epson Portland Inc., a manufacturing facility for the Printer brand. On January 23, 2014, he filed articles of organization for a company called Farm LLC. An extensive search of the company does not yield what it does exactly. The company was dinged for failing to meet certain annual obligations and was soon after kaput. Other noteworthy items include the fact that on March 16, 2012, Michael took out a loan on a 5-year term from First Tech Federal Credit Union, but it isn't clear if that was paid off. He was making just under $4,000 a month before taxes. Crucially, he was working as a security guard at the same Cascade facility that Karissa previously worked at. And so here are 2 law enforcement officials facing a man who's lived a relatively quiet, uneventful, and modest life, at least that we know of. It was May 20, 2019, 7 days after Karissa was last seen, but crucially 2 days since detectives last spoke with Michael. On the day they went to visit Michael again, they received information from Karissa's cell service provider AT&T about where her phone was during the period she had presumably went missing. They learned that on May 14 at 2:27 p.m., her phone pinged off a cell tower within the area of Michael's house. On the same day, her phone pinged off a cell tower in the area of the Cascade facility. Michael said he had no contact with Karissa or her son and did not know where they were. He said he worked his whole shift on May 13 and got off work around 6 a.m. or a little earlier on May 14. But then detectives would obtain surveillance footage from the Cascade facility. It would show Michael leaving his work area around 8:45 p.m. on May 13, traveling in a golf cart to a carpenter shop, and then walking into a tree line behind the carpenter shop that had access to the business parking lot. Then he emerges from those bushes at around 2:35 a.m. on May 14. He then drives a golf cart back to work while carrying a white trash bag with items inside. At roughly 2:52 a.m., he re-emerges from work wearing his work shirt and holding the trash bag. The footage and Michael's story didn't jibe. Then detectives received data from AT&T about Michael's phone location. It showed the following. At 8:55 p.m. on May 13, Michael's phone was moving south away from Cascade toward downtown Salem, where he is using a cell tower in the area around Carissa's address. At 9:42 p.m., his phone is still using the towers in Salem. Then at 1:38 a.m., his phone starts pinging towers showing he was traveling north toward Cascade. At 1:43 a.m., he is in Kaiser. Then at 2:12 a.m., he is near his workplace, consistent with surveillance footage. At 4:43 a.m., he is back near his home. Despite no signs of Karissa or her son, detectives and prosecutors were satisfied to bring murder charges against Michael. In the complaint filed by prosecutors, they said they believed, quote, the only known person who would benefit from the disappearance or criminal homicide of Karissa and William is Michael. But if that's the case, then why? And what actually happened to Karissa and her son? Let's rewind. It's early 2015 and Michael Wolfe is hungry. The 48-year-old is in the middle of his normal 12-hour security shift from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Cascade Steel Rolling Mills in McMinnville when he takes a break to order food. He whips out his phone and orders himself a sub from Jimmy John's. Michael loved his Jimmy John's. In fact, he ordered it just about every day. One day, a 21-year-old Karissa Fretwell is told by her employer that she needs to make a delivery to the Cascade facility. The location of the facility is just over 1 mile east of the Jimmy John's in McMinnville. When she gets there, she goes to the front desk and meets Michael. She hands him the sub, but the two stick around and converse for a little bit before they say their farewells. When Michael gets back to his desk, he thinks about the girl who just delivered his sub. The next day, he would do it again, asking Jimmy John's to send Karissa in particular to deliver his sub. Again, the two converse and split. By this point, Michael has developed a liking for the girl. She was sociable, and having lived a largely quiet life, he was looking to get closer to her. But Karissa was initially uncertain. Karissa told a coworker about inappropriate comments Michael made to her, according to the Salem Reporter. Michael, it should be noted, was the same age as when her father died. Perhaps a dynamic was at play here. Seemingly every day, Michael would make this a routine, have subs delivered specifically by Karissa. And with every conversation, Karissa felt she grew closer to Michael, like the friend she needed. He made her feel special. He would compliment her. He was a sweet talker. Then one day, on one of their now standard delivery conversations, Michael asks whether she wants to work at Cascade. Karissa, her eyes widening, looked at Michael and said, yes. By this point, Karissa had no idea who Michael really was. This is a dating website called Elite Mate. It was founded in 2001 and it looks like it never graduated graphically. But to the point, it contains the archived version of one profile under the name Big Man 490. Big Man 490 is an apt name because the man behind it stood 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighed 220 pounds. It was Michael Wolfe. We know this because the email used to create it was Mike's Epson Company account. Using the power of math and knowing his age today, this profile was created around the year 2004. Herein lies the first problem. Michael Wolfe had been married to his wife Monica since 1991. Whether Michael cheated on his wife back then is not known to me, but what isn't up for debate is whether Michael cheated on his wife at all. Fast forward to 2015, and Michael secures Karissa a part-time job as a security guard at Cascade in April 2015. Karissa was now extra busy with school and her delivery job, but she also had an additional income, which unlocked new opportunities for her. While employed at Cascade, Karissa and Michael would talk all the time. After all, they were both working security. Slowly but absolutely surely, Michael and Karissa grew really close. Then, feeling like they were headed in a certain direction, Michael asked Karissa on a date. Carissa's mother would later say Michael groomed her daughter all the way through. The 21-year-old Karissa and 48-year-old Michael would begin a secret romantic relationship, which Karissa kept from her friends. For example, despite her active Facebook presence and previous posts about boyfriends, she refused to mention Michael. And then, on a fateful day around the late spring, early summer of 2015, they would have sex. Karissa would soon become the physical embodiment of Michael's cheating life, and things were about to get a lot worse. According to her Facebook profile, September 2015 was the last month that Karissa was employed at Cascade. It was around this time that something occurred that would change the trajectory of her life. As she was working at the Jimmy John's, an upset older woman entered the store and approached Karissa. Karissa had no idea this was Michael's wife. It's not clear what the discussion was about, but it is assumed it was about Carissa's relationship with Michael. Karissa couldn't believe it. She had no idea Michael was married. Karissa then ended the relationship with Michael. She would say that Michael and his wife eventually worked things out. Alright, weird. Let's all just chalk up the last few months as one giant mistake and move on, right? Except, only days later in a Facebook group for moms, Karissa would reveal some unexpected news. She was pregnant with Billy. The links were not severed. The assumption from the jump was that Billy was Michael's child. Michael wasn't happy about this. He offered Karissa money for an abortion, but the only thing Karissa aborted was that idea. She maintained the pregnancy and was supported by staff at the Morrison school she attended so many years ago. She gave birth in February 2016. Michael did not want to be in the child's life or support him financially, but occasionally sent gifts to placate him and the baby's mother. Michael would eventually co-sign a lease in 2017 for her apartment after she struggled to find stable housing. Before that, she had been occasionally staying with her mom and with roommates and a boyfriend. Michael had a key to the apartment and would show up at all hours without warning, according to the Statesman Journal. He was described as controlling. Michael's family had previously scolded Karissa and made threats about taking the child away from her. According to the Journal, Karissa relayed an incident in which a family friend of Michael's confronted her at the grocery store and told her that she ruined their family, alluding to her being a homewrecker. Michael was there and said nothing. Karissa also suspected that Michael hired a private investigator to follow her around to prove she was an unfit mother, presumably to take the child away. The babysitter would tell detectives that in the 3 months leading up to their disappearance, Karissa told her over several conversations that Michael and his wife threatened to take Billy from her. On May 10, 2019, a Polk County Circuit Court judge finalized an order that would alter the course of Carissa's life. 1 year earlier, in May 2018, Karissa walked up the flight of stairs of the courthouse located in Dallas, Oregon. Holding a folder of papers with her, she felt she had no choice. Over the previous 2 years, she had struggled to balance school, work, and taking care of Billy. She was spending 30% of her income on childcare alone. In other words, she needed money to take care of Billy. She had recently taken settlement cash from an injury she suffered while working at Jimmy John's and moved out to West Salem. The money afforded her 6 months in a 1-bedroom apartment. She eventually found a job as a security guard at the Yamasa Corporation soy sauce plant in Salem. She would work 16-hour shifts multiple days a week, according to the Statesman Journal, but she sucked it up because she needed the money. She initially didn't want to file for child support, according to the paper, citing friends of hers. but because she was struggling to keep up with payments, combined with her wish for Billy to know who his father is by establishing visitation rights, pushed her toward filing the documents. And so the process was initiated. The first step was to establish the father of the child, which turned out to be Michael. In December 2018, while the court was deciding on how much he would pay in child support, Michael would send text messages and gifts to Karissa, including a card granting her a sexual favor. Karissa responded by telling him to stop sending her things. It appeared that Michael was hoping for an alternative to paying child support. He resorted to what he did best: sweet talking and gifts. It didn't work this time. In mid-April 2019, the court established an amount to be paid to Karissa of $904 a month. The order was signed on May 10. 3 days later, Karissa and Billy would vanish. When police questioned Michael at his house on May 18, he admitted to having a sexual relationship with Karissa, but said he hadn't heard from her since their child support hearing on April 15, according to the criminal complaint. He said the hearing, quote, did not go well, and that he was going to have to pay $900 a month. Michael challenged that amount in court, as he argued it couldn't be correct. At the time, he was making nearly $3,800 a month before taxes. He noted that he did not have Karissa's phone number or an active Facebook account to communicate with her. In the meantime, on May 23, a massive search involving the FBI, Oregon State Police, and a search and rescue team from Yamhill County was conducted for Karissa and Billy, which included a survey of Michael's property. Some background investigative work would yield that Michael had a permit to cut firewood on land owned by timber company Weyerhaeuser. So, on June 15, they would set upon the property 10 miles west of Yamhill. Remember those hunting licenses I mentioned earlier? He had one to hunt and fish in the same area. He also had a watercraft there. Over 40 people from law enforcement, fire, and search and rescue teams searched the heavily wooded and remote area. After nearly 2 hours of searching, the two bodies were found together, covered in tarp, in a steep ravine on a flat spot under a tree. 25-year-old Karissa had died from a single gunshot wound to the head, but the medical examiner did not confirm or release at the time a cause of death for Billy. Search warrants for Michael's property found drugs capable of sedating humans. Investigators believe that at some point, Michael somehow kidnapped Karissa and Billy from their home in West Salem and transported them to the wooded area where he executed them. That night, he used her phone at his home to tell her employer that she couldn't come into work that day. Michael told police he was trying to bring Karissa and Billy a, quote, peace offering of diapers and toys on the night that she disappeared, and that he did not want to pay child support. Investigators unearthed further evidence showing that Michael visited a dump and hardware store the day after their disappearance and bought rope and tarps with which he used to wrap the bodies. At some point during the search, police had lost Michael briefly, resulting in a wanted poster. But the next day, May 24, he was found just before 2 p.m. at a Blue Star donut shop in southwest Portland. According to KATU-TV, Wolfe was making weird comments to the female employees, who thought he was homeless. He was charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder and 2 counts of first-degree kidnapping. The court told Michael that an aggravated murder charge under Oregon law meant he could see the death penalty. But a change in Oregon law during this time narrowed the definition of aggravated murder, so the state filed an amended indictment to fit his crime under the new definition. But that was moot. Michael pleaded guilty to aggravated murder and second-degree murder in June 2022. In exchange, he had several other murder and kidnapping charges dropped and the death penalty removed from consideration. The next month, Michael John Wolfe was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 30 years before he's eligible for parole. Karissa's mother, Nyla Bales, told the court, quote, "He decided the money was more important than the lives of my daughter and grandson." While he was in jail, Michael's wife Monica filed for divorce after 29 years of marriage, which was finalized in September 2020. Michael by then had properties that he transferred in Monica's name. Meanwhile, Carissa's mom Nyla filed a $2 million wrongful death lawsuit against Michael, which was settled privately. The lawsuit alleged that the June 2019 transfer of Michael's properties to Monica was unlawful and was done to defraud Nyla. Finally, Karissa was said to inspire other single moms to do things that are generally considered too difficult for them, such as work multiple jobs and go to school. According to the Statesman Journal, Karissa inspired at least one of her friends to go back to school as a single mother. Quote, "I didn't have a lot of other single mom friends who went to school while parenting, and so she changed my life in just that aspect alone," said Emily Bickle, according to the newspaper. Seeing a single mom who juggled so much with so much grace and joy, that's rare to see when you're looking at people who are coming up after adversity. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to me narrate this story, which was based on secondary and primary sources. Special thanks to the reporters, especially the Statesman Journal, for victim profiles, and to you guys for engaging in the subject matter. As always, be well, feed the poor, and obviously, don't be Michael Wolfe. Goodbye.